Welcome to the NFL Coast to Coast podcast. I'm your host, Nate Weitzer, flying with Mo Nawara today. Josh Lander, our usual host, is out of the office, if you will, but we are still bringing you a full slate of props. There's 3 Saturday games to touch on here in Week 15, as well as the usual 10 Sunday games. So we'll try to concentrate on the Sunday where available, but they've been slow with the props late in the season. Injury news. That's something you can keep an eye on TheLines.com, as well as using our prop finder tool to find out exactly when these props do go up, to keep an eye on any movement as well and shop good prices. And as usual, we're going to be bringing you a passing, rushing, and receiving prop each. And I'll be throwing in kind of a bonus pick if you are watching this before the Saturday slate so that you can get some action in on those games. So I'll lead us off in the passing, where we're both going Saturday. I like Deshaun Watson, 4:30 game against the Ravens. Just 216.5 passing yards, and FanDuel still has it at 213, Mo. So that's obviously some great value. And look, after his awful debut, he goes 26 for 42 for 276 against the Bengals. Pretty damn good pass defense. While the Ravens have been better lately, they're still giving up the 7th most passing yards and the 6th highest completion rate in the league. And on the road, they've been pretty awful in their last 3 here. One to Brady after building a big lead, one to Trevor Lawrence in that comeback, one to Mitch Trubisky and the Steelers, where they give it up at least like 275 through the air. Watson, obviously we know the talent there. The game situation, even with Tyler Huntley in there, the Ravens ground game should have a lot of success against the Browns' awful round defense. And that's the kind of game script we saw last week when Watson threw for 276 because the Bengals put it on them early and they were in comeback mode. And so I think he'll have plenty of opportunities. Also like the completions prop. I think it's only 17.5 completions for Watson. The Browns have nothing to play for other than to get him acclimated at this point.
Yeah, it's a tough read on Watson. Really has been a tough read. I wouldn't know what to think on anything to do with Deshaun Watson, to be honest. Really, obviously horrible debut, like you said, and then following up on that, a better game, but a game where they were in a negative script for basically the whole game. I think they were down like 17 in the second half, so it's really hard to say what those numbers mean. I would think he looked a little better, but this is a game with a really low total, a game where not much offense is expected. I would definitely think he should go over this number even in a low total game, but yeah, I'm just completely off it on anything to do with Deshaun Watson or the Browns pretty much. Just having no idea what Deshaun or this team is going to give you right now, given how hard to define his talent level is.
Yeah, fair. It is definitely an erratic pick here, but such a low total in a game where I do expect some success through the air for the Browns. Amari Cooper getting a little bit healthier. So what you're going Saturday night here? What's the weather like in Buffalo if you're taking an over?
Yeah, I think the market is very, very scared of this weather here. I did recommend a play on over 42 in Dolphins versus Bills early in the week. It's up to 44 now. So clearly the market does expect some scoring here. It's actually up 3 points in some spots from 41.5, seeing at least 144.5 this morning. So I expected way more points than 41.5. Market clearly agrees with me. There is some potentially poor weather in the forecast, though. So it's interesting to see the total coming up, because usually in these spots, just everyone is just running to the window to pound the under. Snow, wind, not to an absurd level. I was seeing 10 to 15 mile an hour winds. It could be multiple days of snow, so we'll see what the field looks like. But we've seen receivers be able to break away from slipping and sliding DBs in some spots. So I do think there's going to be some offense in this game, and I think we can buy low on a quarterback I've never been high on and fired the under a couple weeks ago on. Tua's number is at 235.5. It's 40 yards below his season average. That's just like pretty crazy. I think we're getting a discount here off not only the weather, but a couple of poor recent games. I think, definitely one on national TV. Everybody saw how bad he was against the Chargers. Still threw for 295 though in the other poor game where I had the under against the 49ers. And this Bills defense, it's very good still. It's very solid, but it's definitely not as scary as it was early in the season. Lost Micah Hyde, lost Von Miller, and now Matt Milano's banged up. He's their most important coverage linebacker. I think he's going to play. He did put in a limited practice, I believe, yesterday after he missed the first 2 practices of the week. But yeah, I just see this Bills defense as like a solid, good defense. Definitely very far from like unbeatable. Wouldn't call them elite probably at this point with all their injuries and how young and Tre'Davious White coming back from injury in their secondary. Obviously, we know what the Dolphins are rolling out there as far as weapons goes. So I'm going to take the discount and take over 235.5 here. I like Dolphins team total over 17.5 too.
Yeah, I'm with you 100%. And it's mostly about Tyreek Hill when you mentioned DBs slipping and sliding. Like, I mean, 6.5 receptions for him at plus odds. I think they will throw him a ton of underneath balls and just see what happens, because it's like pecking away until you get that breakaway run when Tre'Davious White, is maybe their top corner trying to cover him, and he's got that shaky knee. And if there's snow everywhere, it's going to be really tough for them to deal with Tyreek Hill. So yeah, I think I would correlate with that, with the Tua over. And we got to give you guys some Sunday picks here if you are watching this. I'm looking at that Eagles-Bears game, and just the idea of game flow that Jalen Hurts would go under 235 passing yards when he went for like 178 against the Packers and 220 against the Giants because they were just blowout wins. You could say, well, he went for 380 against the Titans in a blowout win, but that's the number one DVOA rush defense. They face the highest pass play rate. Packers and Giants are 31st and 32nd in that department, and the Bears are 29th. So, I mean, the Eagles can just pound the rock all day. They don't necessarily need Hurts to do much with his arm. And on the other side, maybe that game flow gets Justin Fields over a very low prop of 159, but not that excited about that against a really good defense. Moving on to rushing, I'm going to go under in New Orleans, Atlanta coming to New Orleans. And I mean, Cordarrelle Patterson, they've really been careful with him in 5 games since coming back from the MCL sprain. He's averaging 11 touches a game, playing 46% of the snaps. That's translated to 45 rushing yards per game. So you're not going to get the same Cordarrelle usage that you saw in week 1 when he touched the Saints for 120 yards on 27 touches. I mean, the Falcons, the rest of their running backs went down with injury early in that game to give him that kind of absurd workload. And he's just not getting that anymore. So 51.5 rushing yards. I'm going under there. Wary to tack on the receiving just because maybe the Falcons switch things up a little bit with Desmond Ridder under center. Maybe they get Patterson involved more in the screen game. Maybe they mix up their pass play rate. But the idea that they're kind of turning the page to a young quarterback here after their bye does not give me confidence about a veteran playing more than rookie Tyler Algier against the Saints defense that's pretty damn good. That's also coming off a bye. And in his previous 2 against the Saints, Patterson, 21 rushing yards on just 13 carries. So, I mean, they've been playing funnel run defense for a while under Dennis Allen, and I think he knows how to shut down Atlanta's ground game if they are going to try to run that way.
It really does seem like they want to work Algier in a little more. So, yeah, this seems fine. I'm a little surprised that the number went up. Oh, never mind. I'm seeing, okay. I didn't realize that you did the rushing and receiving. I haven't looked at his receiving usage of late, but it looks like he hasn't been used as much. It definitely seems like when they want to go short yardage, they want to go with Algier. So he's kind of their preferred power back from what I've seen the last couple of weeks. It really does seem like close to a 50-50 mix. So, yeah, with the Saints, they have had elite run defenses in the past. This year, it's a little more middling. Still, I think a little bit above average, but yeah, I don't expect a ton of respect for this Atlanta passing game, I would guess, as far as what the Saints are going to try to do on defense here. So that's why I actually I went with a rushing over as in this game, and it's for Desmond Ridder. Not too many markets hanging around out there, but I did find an over 24.5, and it's pretty low for a quarterback who we know nothing about as far as what he's going to look like on an NFL field, obviously. But, based on what I saw in college, he was a pretty good runner, averaged 50 yards a game in college, roughly. It was around 40, but with sacks, the way sacks work in college, I'm guessing it was probably around 50 of actual rushing yards. Testing-wise, ran a 4.49. Good athlete, 800 plus quarterbacks in the Math Bomb database, and he tested out, I think, 39th out of 800 plus. So, he's a good athlete. And even though he ran less as a senior, I still think he's going to be looking to run every now and then in the pros. And the Saints haven't done a good job corralling rushing quarterbacks so far this year. 61.3 yards per game they allowed when they faced Lamar Jackson, Kyler Murray, and earlier this year, Marcus Mariota, game you referenced earlier, early in the season. It was week 1, I believe. Mariota went 12 for 72, and it's a good situation with Ridder playing in a dome against, a medium, middle of the pack defense. I think just subjectively, one thing I've tended to notice when I watch some of these young quarterbacks, they do look to break pocket a little too early pretty often. They're a little bit used to being able to run, 40-yard rushes in college when they see an opening. They'll learn pretty quick that it closes up. I think you saw it a lot with kind of like Bryce Perkins earlier this year. Some of these guys do have to learn the hard way that you're not going to be able to break away as easily. I think we could see, but even if that's not the case, 24.5 yards. I mean, a couple decent scrambles is going to get him there. So, the Falcons are committed to giving him the start. So we should see him play the whole game, barring an injury. And this line is just pretty low.
Yeah, and your boy Malik Willis learning the hard way about trying to get anything going on the ground as well. Want to throw in a bonus pick here from the Saturday slate, the earliest game, Colts and Vikings, and Jonathan Taylor over 81 yards because Jeff Saturday will pound the rock at all costs. That seems to be his MO. He's given Taylor 21 carries for 100 yards per game in his 4 games as coach here. And while the Vikings are absolutely abysmal in the pass defense, they are also the worst in terms of total yardage, giving up a ton on the ground in their last 2 here, 4.8 yards per carry. And they, come out and say, we're going to go with tight man coverage. So that's apparently their renewed effort to actually play some pass defense. In any case, I mean, it's just a usage thing where even when the Colts were down, lost by 45 or something to the Cowboys, 35, excuse me, Taylor still gets 82 yards. So I think in a better situation, he should be fine. Move into receiving props here. Got to be excited about the Chargers passing offense against the Titans, who I mentioned forced the highest pass play rate in the league. 83% of opponents' yardage, comes through the air when they're playing on the road, the Titans. And the Chargers are more than happy to oblige with that. They have a 70% pass play rate at home, and it's 73.5 in their last 3 since they got Keenan Allen back. He's at 71.5 receiving yards, and I haven't seen his receptions prop yet, but I would take 7 catches or higher. I mean, he's coming off a 12-catch performance with Herbert completing a career-high 39 passes, 367 yards through the air of the team's 430. So, I mean, they're not really going to try to run against the Titans, which is the number 1 DVOA rush defense. Austin Eckler's rushing prop is 40 yards, and I'd be scared to take that either way. And it's a better matchup for Keenan against Terrence Mitchell. versus Mike Williams on Christian Fulton, who's 19th in target rate, 22nd in separation. Mitchell is below average in both things. I mean, I think Allen will be able to cook him.
Yeah, we could see a bunch of Keenan Allen slot snaps as well here. He has been in the slot more than 50% of the time, it looks like. And when you look at Tennessee's coverage breakdown, in terms of DVOA, 28th in the NFL against slot receivers, 65 yards per game they're allowing to these guys. So I think Keenan does have a good matchup if he lines up in the slot. I would think that that's what you're going to be hoping for in this spot. So if he does get a bunch of slot snaps, which with Mike Williams being healthy, he probably should. Good chance to go over this number. Game that I could see really being a shootout here, honestly. I was interested in the over, so this makes sense to me.
Yeah, 301 yards is the prop for Herbert. So, I mean, that gives you a lot of confidence about his top weapons. I mean, he's locked in right now. And so give us an under, Mo, as you are wont to do. Who is your guy?
Yeah, did dig up one under this week. Man, a guy who I was like super, super high on coming into the year in fantasy, drafted him in multiple spots and started off the year just wrecking everything in sight. Made me very happy. Things have gotten a lot worse since then. It's Mark Andrews. I took under 52.5 here. Facing the Browns, game we referenced earlier. Like we were saying, really low total. Shouldn't be a ton of offensive success here in general. It was lower. It was 37. Looks like it's up to 38 and a half now. So some support for the over, but even with that, still looking at a very low total. Another game where the weather could be somewhat of a factor. 14 mile per hour winds in the forecast. We have seen windy games in Cleveland really put a damper on some of these passing offenses in the past. And the biggest thing for me, though, here is the Browns' rush defense is the absolute worst. I mean, when you can't stop anything on the ground and the Ravens are looking to run the ball, I think we're just going to see them pound the rock here a bunch, especially with a backup quarterback in there. A quarterback who's a decent runner himself. So, yeah, Cleveland, bottom of the barrel, 32nd in the league, rush defense EPA per play allowed. So that bodes well for the Ravens running attack. So even if you have Andrews in fantasy and you're in that, I could see him scoring some touchdowns, but I don't think he's going to have a ton of yards. It's just a lower ceiling passing offense in general with Tyler Huntley in there. And the Browns really put the kibosh on him last time, man. 2 targets, 0 yards. And I checked his snaps. They were still at 88%. So he was out there the whole game. And the Browns have done a decent job. They're kind of middle of the pack against tight ends over the whole season. So Mark Andrews, don't expect him to do a ton of damage here. And it's just been really a continuation of what's been a bad Ravens passing offense for multiple weeks now. Since week 6, which is basically when their passing offense fell off, Andrews is averaging 36 yards per game, even though that does include one game where he got hurt, but still not the highest output the last couple months from him. And I don't really see a reason why that would change in this spot.
Yeah, he's struggling. You wonder if the shoulder was a much bigger issue than they let on. And just the fact that, I mean, he never gets that much separation because there's not any other threats. And Lamar kind of underrated in his ability to drop it in there for Andrews. I don't think he'll have the same rapport with Tyler Huntley, who's not a 1-for-1 replacement as a passer by any means. So, I mean, last pick here, just to throw something else out there. Rachaad White, it's 26.5 receiving yards, averaging 6.7 catches, running 25 routes per game in his last 3, and getting a 47% target rate. Brady, kind of interested in 275 over. That's a little high, though. I think we just want to bank on Brady getting the ball out of his hands as quickly as possible and peppering his running back with targets, which he always loves to do. And the Bucs can't run the ball, and Leonard Fournette's banged up, and his prop's at 22 rushing yards. So that should be the game plan from the Bucs. I mean, whether they fall behind or not, you're going to see a very pass-heavy script. Brady's prop is 40.5 attempts. And if you're getting a 47% target rate when you're running a route, a good chance Rachaad White gets a bunch of low catches here. And that is all the time we have for you in this one. Follow along with us all the rest of the regular season and into the playoffs. We will be back each Friday to bring you a full slate of props. And until then, happy betting.